Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, everything really, depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is an actor and a writer. You'll recognize her from Letterkenny on Crave in Canada and Hulu in the States. We're with Nadine Bhabha. Nadine, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. And, I find it really cool because, people recognize you from Letterkenny, but you're also a writer and an author. And I find it's kind of important to kind of showcase people like yourself who wear many hats.
Yes.
How important is it for you to wear many hats?
Well, in Canada, we say many toques, first of all.
Yes.
I think it's really important. I think no one's going to give you the exact opportunity you want. So you sort of have to, carve your own path, and writing was definitely that for me. So
Absolutely.
I think it's really important to be a creator as well as just one medium.
Absolutely. And, we'll get into Letterkenny, but specifically I want to talk, because you're a writer, I want to talk about Sweat. Can you tell my viewers a little bit about Sweat?
Yes. So Sweat is a collection of poetry divided into 5 chapters. It's heavy on a breakup, and then it goes into a little bit about Toronto, and it goes a little bit about just being an actor and being an artist, and into my family life, and then self-love and all that fun stuff. Absolutely.
And did you see that as a project where you can kind of pour your heart into it and just kind of use all these different experiences? Was this a real passion project for Nadine?
Yeah, I didn't even set out to write that book. It wrote itself. I just started writing some poems down, on the subway, and then all of a sudden I had over 100 poems, and I go, is this how we make a book? So I just put them into little chapters, and I love reading poetry. So poetry was a big part of my life and still is. And so the book sort of wrote itself, and yeah, it really is me. It's just me. It's an uncut gem of Nadine.
Oh, absolutely. And people recognize you from Letterkenny. Letterkenny seems to be a show that just has an unbelievably passionate fan base. And yeah. I feel like when it launched on Hulu, talking to other people I've interviewed from Letterkenny, it just kind of exploded. And it's interesting because your character, there's been a lot of kind of growth with your character. I believe it was supposed to be maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but no, they kept kind of inviting you back, correct?
Yeah. So, the character that we were the City Girls.
Yeah.
And, I think as they grew the characters about wanting to go into the city more and more with, Stuart and Roald, that our characters kept coming back for more. And then, the girls just fell in love with Letterkenny.
Yeah.
in the story. Yeah.
Did you kind of notice, did you notice how kind of insane and passionate the fan base is? You see it on social media, it's pretty phenomenal.
Honestly, I love it. I'm a super fan of so many things, so I get it. So when you find something that you can relate to and that touches your funny bone and your heart, I understand. So and we love the fans. It's a great show.
I feel like you hit it though, because I feel like one of the reasons why, talk to a lot of people. There's a lot of Canada, we love hockey, so the hockey component really kind of hit stride. But I feel
we love our hockey.
Oh, we do. I feel like a lot of people relate to, especially the kind of in the States. There's all these rural cities, rural towns. I feel like people are gonna relate to the small, close knit community that is Letterkenny. They're gonna be wow, this reminds me of where I'm from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what was actually really cool is the latest season that came out over the holidays. I was in London. I have some family in London, England, and they had never seen the show, but we watched the new episodes together. And the Newfoundlanders that were in the beginning of this season, they could relate to them because they sounded like their friends from small town England and Ireland, and so. It kind of has if you're from a small town anywhere, it sort of speaks to that.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. What did you kind of notice? Because I mentioned certain things like why it's so popular, but like, do you think it's just like because the writing is amazing on that show? Do you think it's just a testament to the writing?
Oh, it's the easiest job in the entire world. Like you get the scripts and you don't have to do extra work to make it funny. It really does just lend itself to the pace, and the jokes are just so easy to deliver, and the writing's incredible.
So you are are you from Toronto?
I'm from Toronto.
So born and raised.
Born and raised here my whole life.
So we are both born and raised in Canada. We grew up with a lot of Canadian TV shows.
Yeah.
And you were on one of the most popular TV shows that's on Hulu, but it is a Canadian TV show and it's a comedy show. Mm-hmm. There's no beating around the bush, Nadine. When we were younger, a lot of Canadian TV and film had this stigma attached to it that it wasn't as good as the stuff coming in from the United States of America. Mm-hmm. It's safe to say with shows like Letterkenny, Schitt's Creek, Kim's Convenience, Working Moms, that stigma's gone.
I absolutely agree. I didn't always totally agree with our little inferiority complex we had with the States. Like, no shade to the States, love so much of the content that comes out of there. Yep. But we have the talent here. We have the creatives here, and it's about time that we recognize that in ourselves. So I love that you said that. And yeah, like we're doing it. We're killing it.
But there was something I find interesting also about like a lot of the some of my favorite like kids shows growing up, like they were like Canadian, and I love it. Like, for example, like Arthur is still like, in my opinion, like the greatest show of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, hello.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
So many shoys like YTV and PBS. Like I used to watch those all the time. But like I find it interesting too because like, do you remember like on YTV there was a show called Freaky Stories? You remember that show?
Do I remember Freaky Stories?
It happened to a friend of mine. Yeah. Did you see the meme? I tweeted it out, like where it shows like the phone, like a photo from it, and it's like, if you're Canadian and grew up in Canada, you knew the show.
You know this show, yeah.
But like these are all like Canadian shows, Nadine, that like it was so good, right? Like I just interviewed someone from a show called Kidding that was on with Jim Carrey, which was about like one of these like Mr. Dress Up, Mr. Rogers kid kind of show hosts. And one of the actors on, I was talking to her, she'd never heard of Mr. Dress Up.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
My little heart.
I know.
Yeah. Honestly, I grew up watching Degrassi like religiously, Next Gen. I mean, original Degrassi and Next Generation. And so, and the States also love Degrassi. Like that's what we forget, is that Degrassi was crossing borders from the beginning. So is SCTV. And, it's just, we're in a renaissance, I think, of Canadian television.
For sure. A genre I kind of wanted to talk to you about a little bit, even if it might not be your like a genre that you're specifically interested in. Maybe you'd work in it, but maybe like the horror genre, the thriller genre is a genre that it's one of my favorite genres. And people who follow Popternative, I from time to time like featuring people from some of my favorite horror movies that come out and interview them. But like I find a lot, like, do you not find as a storyteller or actor, are you noticing there's like a trend where there's so many amazing movies of like horror and thriller coming out?
Yeah, I mean, Canada is known for just being really wacky with our horror. Mm-hmm. It's funny that you say that because I didn't really count myself as a horror fan growing up. I don't like gore and I didn't like a lot of the tropes, but I just wrote my first feature and it was a horror.
Wow.
And it's funny that you say that now because I'm getting really into the genre and I'm learning a lot, and there's so much space for creativity in the horror genre, and so I think that's why so many horrors are being made. So yeah, that's amazing. I will send you recommendations because trust me, there's some good ones. I just interviewed, like, there's one on Shudder that everyone's talking about called Host. I haven't seen that one.
Well, you got to watch it because it's 56 minutes long and it takes place on a Zoom call.
That's a horror in and of itself.
They made it over quarantine, and it's like a seance, and everything goes crazy. I love that. Yeah. I've interviewed all 5 of them on my show, and I was afraid they were gonna like prank me. Because it's like actually one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
I'm scared, but I'm into it.
Like, did you see The Invisible Man?
I did. I loved it.
How, like, that was unbelievable.
I know, it's one of those things where you're like lying there at night. I watched it the weekend it came out.
It was scary though.
It
Like,
was scary.
Like, it was scary.
And I think I'm like, is someone here? Like,
Well,
we'll never know.
Host is gonna kind of make you feel like that.
Okay, well.
But it's so well done. But it's
Yeah.
but it's a testament to what you say about like the creativity. I just feel like you don't need like the jump scare to scare people. There's other things that scare people.
You know what? I think Get Out is one of my favorite horrors because the scary thing is racism, and you're right. You don't need the jump scare. There are lots of things that build tension.
It's unbelievable, and I feel like the writing's getting better in the genre. Like I feel like it's writing. It's the writing. Like I'm actually writing a short horror film myself.
Great, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wear many toques.
Yeah, hey, wear all those toques.
So obviously, like, you know, people can check you out at Letterkenny. People can, but if they want to check out kind of your writing, like Sweat, I mean, is there any way they can get the book or?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon.ca. It's on Amazon.com. It's on Amazon worldwide.
Yeah.
And then if you're in Toronto, you can get it at a different book list on Bathurst Street and at First and Last Coffee on DuPont. They're both
amazing. Have you noticed, because people are going to message you about like Letterkenny and everything, but have you had like people kind of reach out to you specifically about your book, Sweat?
Yeah, it's basically anyone going through a breakup messages me and goes, this is exactly how I feel. And I'm like, it's comforting to know that these feelings are universal, and especially because it's not an angry book. It's really just like the day-to-day mood swings of feeling crappy. Yeah. And I think everyone can relate to that, even if you haven't gone through a breakup. There's so much other stuff that you can relate to when you're feeling down.
No, absolutely. Well, Nadine, thank you so much for coming on Popternative.
Thank you so much for having me.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Nadine Bhabs. The last name Bhabs. My last name is Bhabha, but it's a little short. And yeah, you can follow me there.
And they can watch Letterkenny on Crave in Canada and on Hulu in the States, correct?
Yes, please watch Letterkenny. The new season should be coming out shortly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. And this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Nadine Bhabha and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.